Hey, so 5 things got delivered today. This isn't one of them. She was here already. She owns this place. Don't you, baby girl? Mwah. My poppy. 5 things got delivered today from Amazon, and I'm super excited about one of them in particular. I don't know why I'm so excited about one of them in particular. It's probably because I'm a bit sad. So, this is just protective packaging cushioning stuff. Now, first out of the box, water conditioner. It makes your tap water tank safe, apparently, getting rid of chlorine and other harmful substances. I don't put water in a tank straight from a tap anyway. You come in. Come on. Both of you? No! Anyway, I run the water through a purifier that I have for the koi pond outside. So that is supposed to take a lot of metals, and I think the purifier is meant to neutralize the chlorine as well, because it's got activated carbon in it and all kinds of stuff. However, I still don't trust it completely, so I still like that water to usually be sat for around 24 hours, just for chlorine to dissipate out of it, if there's any chlorine left in it. The other thing is my tank is kept warm, and it's usually quite cold water that's out of the tap, so I leave it in a room to at least get to room temperature before I slowly let it trickle into the tank. I have a video coming out where I drip acclimate shrimp, but I do the same thing when I do a water change on the tank. I take water out, that doesn't matter how fast I do that. Take about 10, maybe 15% of the water out. As you might have also seen in those other videos, I use empty milk bottles. They're empty 4-pint milk cartons that I use for water changes. I have 3 of them, 1 for wastewater and 2 for clean water. And I usually have them, the 2 full of clean water at the side of the tank. My thoughts on having them up against the tank is that they'll slowly get warmed up. Not quite to the temperature of the tank, it's just not going to work with the glass between them and everything, but it warms it up pretty much. Just having it a little warmer is bound to be better than putting cold tap water straight in the tank. The red cherry shrimp are not going to like that. They like it kind of warm. Hello? Hello? Can't you tell? I'm trying to do a video, girls. Why are you getting all snuggly and cuddly now? Now you always get snuggly and cuddly. Where was I? But anyway, I just thought I'd get this so that I don't have to worry about it. If I really needed to do a water change fast for whatever reason, I know that I can put this stuff in tap water, and it's supposed to make it perfectly safe for an aquarium environment. So that's the first thing. The second thing I got is a new net. I'll be honest, didn't buy a net yet, until now. Simply because I haven't had the tank that long. When I've put shrimp in the tank previously, I've done what I did not want to do. I admit that. I made the error, you might say, of rather than getting the bag that the shrimp are in and emptying that over a net so that all I've got in the net is the shrimp, and then putting the shrimp in the tank, which is what you really should do, whether it's shrimp or fish or whatever. Even snails maybe. Instead, I didn't have the net, so what I did when I was drip acclimating the shrimp, slowly taking the water that was in the bag out and replacing it with my tank water anyway, I figured after doing that for like 2 hours at least, the water that would be in the bag now after 2 hours is pretty much guaranteed to just be tank water at that point. So I just emptied the bag into the tank. However, I think that's bad practice. So a net for that. Who's a net, I hear you ask? This is a net. Anyway, just come off Minnie, I'm getting too hot. And the other thing is, when I get a second tank, I'm wanting to put some of those shrimp, or all of those shrimp, in that tank. So I'll be netting them out and putting them in there. Net. Third thing is something that I've seen in pretty much every video I've watched about keeping shrimp. Almond leaves. Dried almond leaves. Now, I've never used almond leaves before, but I haven't had the tank very long. I've only had it just over a month. And like I said, Every video I've watched pretty much talks about using these, or they don't talk about it, they just always throw one in their tank. And from what I've heard and read, the shrimp slowly nibble away at the leaves and eventually they just break it all down until it's just all gone. And then when it's all gone, you just pop another one in. A bit like with driftwood and other log kind of things that you put in a tank, they release tannins and apparently help keep the tank healthy, or the inhabitants of your tank healthy. So almond leaves, I think there's 10 in there? I can't remember now. So that's that, almond leaves. The fourth thing is a new heater. This is a new heater that I've got for the new tank that I haven't got yet. It's still being delivered. I don't know when it's going to arrive. It got dispatched about 4 or 5 days ago. Where that tank is, I don't know, but I'm still waiting for it. So I've got the heater for it. That is that box empty. I'll tear that up and put it in the recycling soon. Fifth and final thing that I'm most excited about is this bad boy. Seachem's Tidal 55 hang on the side filter with like a waterfall outlet there. Now if you've watched any videos about my current tank, you'll have heard me say things like filterless, no this, no that. And the idea with that is I want to keep it that way. I don't want it to have a filter. I don't want it to have any kind of aeration or anything like that. It's going to handle that sort of stuff itself. It's heavily planted, so that's plenty of oxygen. It's currently really only stocked with filter feeding creatures and algae eaters, so shrimp and snails. That's it for the moment. I might put some tetra fish in there, I'm not sure. I was thinking about sparkling gouramis, but I really like ember tetras. I just love that ember orangey look. Anyway, so that's for that tank, no filter. For the new tank, which is a larger tank, I'm putting this bad boy in it. So this is what happened. This is what made me go for the Tidal 55 by Seachem. I was this close to buying not that much of a cheaper option for a hang on the side filter. And that filter might have been fine. And right at the last second, I just thought, I'm gonna have a little look on YouTube and see what other people are recommending for a hang on the side filter. So I put a search in and the channel that came up right at the top is a channel that I've been watching for a little while now. And lo and behold, one of their most recent videos is comparing, I think, 5 or 6 different models for hang on the side filter systems. And basically he got to the end of the video and he was expecting himself to prefer another model that he has used on systems before, and he was kind of surprised, but ultimately had to, hands down, give it to this one. When I watched him explain everything that he liked about it, it just made me light up. Immediately I whipped the other one out of my virtual basket, searched for this one, and boom, there it was. Not that much more in terms of cost, but I'll run down the things that he liked about it that I now like about it. There were things about a hang on the side filter that I didn't know I had to, not necessarily had to be aware of, but it just shows the importance of doing your research before you buy anything, whether it's pets, equipment for keeping that pet, whatever it might be. Do your research first before you commit. I was going to be a bit of an idiot and just go straight for one that was reasonably priced and it had got fairly decent reviews on Amazon. I still go by Amazon reviews a little too often. Sometimes you have to do a bit more research than just looking at the reviews and seeing, oh, it's got mainly 5-star reviews, I'll get that one. So what is it about this one that he liked and that I now like? First and foremost, I don't know if you can see that. For one thing, I've not got my glasses on, so I can't see it. But right here somewhere, oh yeah, it's got min water level there. That goes in the tank. The water comes up to about here or wherever, and the pump is submerged in the tank. And that was something that he really liked about this filter. That was something that, again, I didn't know I needed to be aware of until I was aware of it. Some of them have the pump higher up and in the filter housing itself, meaning it has to pull the water out of the tank before it can then flow out of the filter. And there's a few problems with that. One, it puts more work on the pump, meaning it's not pushing the water through, it's pulling it through. And it just seems harder. It's working against gravity. It kind of is anyway, but you know what I mean. It's having to sort of suck the water up, push it through the filter system, and then it can trickle out. But having the pump in the water, under the water level, means it's not having to work to suck the water in or pull the water in. All it's got to do is pump it through the filter. That's it. Simple. The second problem with having a pump that's inside the filter box is if you had a power cut and then the power comes back on, I think there's a danger. Now, citation needed here, might be wrong, but I feel like there could be a higher danger that the pump could end up running dry, because, you know what, I'm going to actually look at this. After assembly and installation of the Tidal filter on a filled aquarium, connect the power cord to the intended outlet. The filter is self-priming and will immediately begin. Aha! That's what I needed to see. The other hang-on filters that I've seen, they've all required you to fill the filter up with water first and then turn it on, because the pump is inside the housing of the filter. Therefore, if you just plugged it in, the pump would be running dry. So obviously you need to fill it up. Because the pump in this case is submerged in the tank, it's immediately primed and ready to go. It's never going to run dry, it's always submerged in the tank. Why don't they all have the pump so that it's situated in the tank water? Why don't they all do that? So after all that rambling, that's the first thing I liked about it. Pump, submerged in the tank water all the time. The second thing I like about it, integrated surface skimmer. You have that surface skimmer anywhere where those slits are and the surface water is collected with whatever the pump's pumping out of the tank, and that just keeps the surface water nice and clean. Speaking of water, another little thing I like about it, call it the third thing on the list. I've already done this, but I'll pull it out just to show you. The wire for the pump comes sort of loose and dangling like this, but it has little groove things that you can slot the wire in just to keep it tidy and out of the way. I'll pop it back in there, and it's relatively tight, so you know it's not going to flop out. But there you go. It just means cable management is a lot slicker. No wires running all over the place. It's kind of something that you can't avoid because you've got lighting, you've got heater, you've got pump essentially, maybe even other appliances that you've got plugged in for the tank, like air pumps or CO2 pumps and what have you. I didn't realise this when I got this, but this little wheel here, can you see that blue thing flip down there? That completely closes off the intake for the pump. I noticed that when I unpackaged it, and I thought, why would you ever want to do that? My first thought was, well, let's say you turn it off, you turn the pump off, and you want to take the filter off completely. This compartment here is going to be full of water. So I thought, well, maybe you shut the intake off, and then you can lift the whole unit off, and no water is going to spill out. Then I thought, well, no, that's not true, because you've got the surface skimmer part, so it'll just flow out of there, and if you tip it, it's going to spill out. And it's only just occurred to me what that is for. You might be screaming that at the screen right now, calling me an idiot, but you can shut that off so it doesn't take water from anywhere else other than the surface. Instead of it pumping water from the sort of mid body or even bottom of the tank, because it's got an extender tube on it that you can bring it further down, a telescopic tube. Instead of having that, you could just have it take water from the surface. Is that what it's for? Probably. Maybe. Definitely? I don't know. I haven't read the instruction book page to page, so maybe. You've got this in front of you, Ryan. Let's have a look. See what it calls it. Oh, poddly, poddly, piddly, piddly, pom. Dual intake regulation dial. So, There's two dials on this. There's this, the dual intake regulation dial, which means you can completely shut off the intake from the bottom and just have it taking from the surface. Lovely. I didn't even know that was a feature. And now I know, I'm super excited. And I don't know why. There's this one as well, just here. And this one is to regulate the flow. You can turn it right up or right down. When comparing it to others, one thing I really liked about this one was that when you do regulate the flow of the water over what comes out and back into your tank, it really makes a difference when you adjust this. Fully open, it's got quite a good flow to it. Fully closed, it's not fully closed, obviously your pump would implode or whatever. But fully lowered to its lowest setting, the flow is so minimal. Let's say you've got a tank with something that does not like a lot of flow, like a beta or betta fish, if you prefer it said like that. They do not like a lot of flow, and that would be perfect for it. Absolutely perfect. If you do have fish that like a lot of flow, this will provide that as well. So I've got that option. Now let's talk about what's on the inside. Take the lid off. Speaking of the lid, you see this blue thing that's dangling down? It's an indicator for when you need to clean the filter if you ever get to that point. One thing that was explained in a video that I watched is how that works, and I'll talk about that in a second. But when you open it up, you're presented with this. There's a bag of Matrix biofilter medium. That's for all your bacteria to grow on. Let's take this out. So this is what houses your filter medium. That bag was just in there. Obviously you want to spread it out as best you can. And underneath the bag of biofilter medium, you've got mechanical filter medium in the form of sponge. Nothing wrong with that, perfect. Bit of sponge in the bottom, capture a lot of debris and garbage. And that's it, that's your filter medium. You can put other stuff in there if you want. There's obviously a multitude of different filter mediums you could choose. You could even just go with more foam or sponge if you wanted. I'm just going to stick with it as is. And this bad boy just slots in there, nice and snug. And to make it a little more snug, there's a nice little slide thing there. Now I'll be honest, I've given this a little test just to see what the flow was like, how it worked, how it looked, how it sounded. And that's another key feature. All hang on the back filters are probably going to be a little noisier than an internal in-tank filter system, because everything that's making the noise is outside. That's a little less true for this one and others that have the pump in the tank water. So that's another plus about the pump being in the tank. But the other thing that people have said is certain models, when the lid's on, every now and again you'll get a nasty rattling and it's noisy, and you wouldn't want it in a bedroom, for example, where you're trying to sleep. This model from this manufacturer is super quiet. It's honestly the only noise I could really hear from it was when the water was trickling out of it. And you're going to get that noise anyway. One thing you could do to make this almost silent is have the inlet, the waterfall part, just below or just sort of level with the tank water level. And then as it trickles in, it's going to the same level, so you're not getting any drop, you're not getting any splooshing and splashing. I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to say about this, other than to say once again, I'm super excited. Oh, one more thing. I'll have to go and grab it from the kitchen because I've left it in the kitchen. It comes with this little box of accessories, which is the telescopic tube to make it extend further down into your tank. If you want it a bit lower, you can have it just that little bit lower or that much longer. All in all, with the telescopic extender pole on, you can get quite deep into your tank. I don't know how big your tank is, but well, that's about, what would you say, about 10-11 inch. no other comparisons to anything else, thank you very much. The other thing it has, if you're wondering, that's quite a big gap through there. I can see your eye. It is a big gap, and obviously some tanks have got thicker sides, some have lips on them that are quite wide, so you need that distance. There aren't going to be many tanks that are thicker than that, but there are going to be tanks that are thinner than that, and that's where this little screw attachment comes in. It's got a little screw and a little attachment. The little attachment slots into the bottom of the filter, like so. Is it this way? Or that way? I don't want to break anything. No! See how it suggests you put it in? How's about that? Aha! Perfect page. Screw the filter leveling dial into the bottom of the filter housing. To prepare the hang-on filter, place the filter on the crater mesh. The job of the blah blah blah. Yes, but how? So you've got to put this in the filter like this. Hiya! And it clicks in like that into the bottom. This little bit just here, and that allows you to screw this screw. I should have probably I should have screwed that in before slotting it in. So you pop that screw into the bottom, if you can see it just there, and you adjust that screw to the thickness of your glass. It's about the thickness of my finger at the moment, but my glass is thinner than that. So I just adjust it until it presses against the glass, just enough to keep everything nice and still and level and not rattling around. Perfect! To say I went into this hobby with the idea of having a filterless tank, nothing mechanical that could go wrong, other than, it's not necessarily mechanical, but a heater just to keep things warm. That was the only, and the light, they were the only two electrical appliances that I wanted. Lighting and a heater, and that was it. Then I just immediately fell in love with everything about the hobby. Maybe not everything, but now I've ordered a bigger tank, and I'm going to have a filter on it, and I'm going to set it up a little differently. Sometimes I think most hobbies are a bit like fishing, for example. A lot of things that are available for fishermen are there to catch the fishermen and not the fish. Like, for example, that's a common saying with lure fishing, for example. Some of the lures are there to catch the fishermen, not the fish, because they have certain qualities that make you look at them and go, ooh, that swims in the water really good. Ooh, look how pretty that is. Sparkles! That one sparkles! And in the end, they buy the lures because they like the lure, not necessarily the fish they're trying to catch with the lure. Is that a metaphor for anything to do with aquariums? Probably. I was perfectly happy with my little nano tank, some shrimp in, some lovely plants. Now I've ordered a bigger tank and I've got a filter, and now I'm going to put all sorts of stuff in it, and I'm so excited now. So yeah, the metaphor doesn't quite work. Is it a metaphor? More of a simile, really. It's a similar thing. It's been a long time since I did English at school, in college. So other than talking about the 5 things that have arrived that I ordered from Amazon the other day, what was the point of this video? I guess it sort of talks about what my plans are for the future in terms of aquariums and expanding my collection. Sorry girls. Trying to sleep. Sorry. Now really all that remains is for the tank to get here. Tank! Hello! I can't hear anything. Right then, my little Daisy do. What remains to be done now is to tidy up a little bit. What's up, Pop Pop? Oh, sorry. We're giving Daisy a bit too much attention. What remains to be done is to tidy up a bit. Don't tell me you want to go out now. What remains to be done is to tidy up a little bit. Let her out, and you're just going to settle down on me knee. Sure. Tidy up a little bit, and then I'm going to pop one of those almond leaves in the tank and see what happens. Well, what will happen is it'll float for around 1 or 2 days until it gets waterlogged and sinks down. Let's go do it! Oh, I like what they've put here as well. Simply put, you have purchased the best hang-on filter available. Thank you.